PhD degree from Bilkent University Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department in 2007, and he moved to the University of Connecticut. And he got his PhD back in 2012 from the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, and he came to Bilkent University to work with Dr. Akitudana. He's currently an assistant professor at the university. Please welcome.
Thanks, Ziya. Yeah, as Ziya mentioned, I'm also currently at the university, so I'm doing part-time. But until being a professor, I got to work on a couple of important things that I actually learned here at Professor Akitudana's group. Together with, especially with Serkan. So I will try to give a credit at the end, but I would like to mention it beforehand as well. This is not just my work. There are people who contribute to this. A full credit can be seen by looking at the publications that I will try to show. So today I will talk about phase change materials for tunable photonic surfaces. So I will start with introduction of phase change materials. And with the tunable part, the tunability will come from the fact that these materials will change their phase as a response of some thermal process. Therefore, the electrical and photonic optical properties will change. And the electromagnetic spectrum region that we are interested in for these applications are the visible part. Therefore, we will try to create colors and we will try to change them by changing the properties of the surfaces. And also the infrared region. So basically, we will try to look at the absorption or emission by changing the interface. So let me start with the introduction of phase change materials. So they are not just limited with, but they are typically chalcogenide materials. Chalcogenide materials are compounds which have at least one chalcogen in it. So basically, these elements, we have sulfur, selenite, and tellurium atoms. So if you have one of them, you have chalcogenide. And most of these materials show reversible amorphous to crystalline transition, and this will be useful, as I will try to mention in the next slides. A couple of compounds are antimony tellurium, galvanic tellurium, and the most important one currently, galvanic antimony tellurium compound, a ternary compound. This compound here, which includes silver, it's also very important for optical discs. So the properties of these phase materials in crystalline and amorphous, they change, which actually constitutes these tunable materials. So in crystalline form, atoms are nicely arranged, not in the whole structure, but it is in certain domains. So if it's a single crystal, then all the atoms are nicely arranged, but typically we will have polycrystalline material by seeing that electromagnetic image. In the liquid form, atoms are free to move. In the amorphous form, the atoms are not arranged in a certain order. Therefore, when you look at them under electromicroscope, it will look like a homogeneous material. So their properties, in electrical properties of crystalline phase materials is as follows. So they show high electrical conductivity, and they also show high optical reflectance. These are related because these are all depending on the free carriers that these materials have. And in contrast, in amorphous form, they have low electrical optical reflectance and they have low conductivity. So how do you go from one phase to other? Let's start with the crystalline phase to amorphous phase. In order to go from crystalline to amorphous, you will have to go through the liquid phase. The crystalline metal has to melt so that atoms are free to move. Once you quench it, when you pull it down very suddenly, you will capture the snapshot of the atom's position, and that will be a chaos. In other words, it will be an amorphous solid. In order to go from amorphous to crystalline, there are two ways. One way is actually following this path. With one difference, the difference will be you don't put it down suddenly, but put it down slowly. The reason being is, if you melt and suddenly cool it down, you will again arrive with amorphous phase. If you do it slowly, you will let atoms to arrange themselves for a lower energy, potential energy, therefore they will be able to form crystalline. This is not the most preferred method. The most preferred method will be simply annealing amorphous volume. In that case, you will not go through melting, it will be all solid. If you simply anneal this, you will give enough energy to atoms so that they can arrange them nicely. So, what do we do with these materials? So, for the last decade, people actually have been working on a memory element called phase change memory devices. When you look at the resistivity, electrical resistivity of these materials, this is what we see. We start with the high resistivity. For example, if you start with the high resistivity amorphous phase, and if you anneal it, if you increase the temperature, you will see that the resistivity will decrease as a function of temperature, and at one point it will suddenly drop. This very first point, it is a phase change. The phase changes from amorphous to crystalline. Therefore, the resistivity is very low. If you continue annealing, you arrive in a different phase, into crystalline form. And if you continue annealing, you will eventually reach melting, which will give you the lowest resistivity. Now, if you can design a device which can go through between this amorphous phase and this crystalline phase, then you have memory. Because the logic or the memory 0 and 1 can now be associated with different resistances. For example, high resistance can be associated with 1 or 0. Or, this is the low resistance can be associated with 0, and the high resistance can be associated with 1. So to do that, you have to have a resistance. And the most preferred geometry is a Marshall cell or a vertical cell, something like this, where the calculation angle of the phase change material is sandwiched between two metal contacts. Here, you measure the resistance of the device by measuring applying voltage difference across the metals and measure the current. That will give you a resistance. And if the calculation angle material is in crystalline form, the resistance will be small. For dimensions, something like nanometers, like 10 or 15 nanometers of bottom contact, we are talking about in order of kilos. It's not too bad. But if you manage to change the phase at the time of this bottom heater or bottom metal contact, you will be basically blocking the current's path. Therefore, the resistance will be very high. It can be very high if you can do it successfully. The resistance will be in the order of megohms. Now, megohms and kiloohms, there are 3 orders of magnitude difference. Therefore, now we can associate each resistance with a certain logic. Again, this can be 0, this can be 1. Now, this way you can store information. At the end of the day, your information will be stored as 0s and 1. And in this part of the technology, those 0s and 1s are recorded as low resistance or high resistance. So this is relatively new. And if you are interested, please try to check Intel's 3D X-Point technology, which actually uses resistive memories. So this technology is very different, very different from what we are using for solid-state memory nowadays. So today, if you go and try to purchase a solid-state drive, it's based on flash memory. So the same technology that we use for USB drives as well. So the flash memory is based on MOSFETs, and the way we record information is basically we store electrons in a floating gate. And by by sensing the electrons or by sensing the lag of electrons, we basically read the information. So that technology is very different compared to this one. Therefore, the change is, if there will be a change, the change will be drastic. But it seems like there will be a change in the technology because Intel is trying to produce these elements, these memory elements, using this new technology. So the phase change materials, however, they are not new. We have been using them for a while, so since basically the 1990s. And they have been actually in rewritable optical discs, like rewritable CDs, rewritable DVDs, Blu-rays. We have them in them. We have phase change materials in them. And the way that we have been using them is by changing the phase and reading the phase, or sensing the phase, by reading the optical reflection. For example, this is a CD under an optical microscope. The black dots are the amorphous regions. Since they have low reflectance, they look darker, obviously. The way you can change the information is by change the phase of the material here using a high intensity laser beam. And in order to read them, now you use a low intensity laser beam. This technology actually in our CD writers. The technology actually moved though. This is like in 1990s technology. The one thing which is different in this case is the material they use for this optical discs is ternary compound, not GST, because GST doesn't really give a better contrast. But nevertheless, it's a phase change material. So technology moved from CD to double layer Blu-rays. The main enabler behind this enhancement is actually they moved from somewhat infrared to red for the DVDs, and nowadays they use blue light, hence the name Blu-ray. So this material actually has been out there for a long time, and it has been used for optical applications already. But only recently people have started using this for research purposes or for academic work. So one example is this. This is from a German group. So fabricating nano antennas is very common. They are for plasma applications. You can change how the light behaves by changing the material or the dimensions on that surface. When you cover such a surface with a phase material or phase field, now you have the capability of changing the optical behavior by changing the phase. For example, these guys, for this structure in amorphous phase, they see a reflectance like this black curve, and this corresponds to IR wavelength. So the application doesn't matter, but there will be some application, obviously. So reflectance is like this. By simply changing the phase of the material, you arrive to this reflectance, right? You change the phase and you change the reflectance. This is interesting because, for example, if you are trying to change the absorbance or reflectance at this wavelength, you get a very high modulation. Now, going back to amorphous phase is tricky because we have to melt and coagulant, and it can be achieved with high power lasers, and typically they use femtosecond lasers in order to go back to amorphous phase. So another application from the literature is this. These researchers have fabricated this waveguide, which is lossless. On the waveguide, however, there's a GST page. GST stands for gadolinium antimony compound. And there is a phase change material. In the amorphous phase, this GST is not lossless, so it doesn't really absorb light at certain wavelengths. Therefore, whatever is sent from this end, it goes to the other end without any loss also. But if you change the phase, if you make it crystalline, now it can absorb the light because in crystalline form they are lossy. In that case, what arrives on the other end is a low intensity light. In other words, by changing the GST space, you can now modulate the light coming out of the wavelength. So this can be used to modulate the light, or it can be used to store information again. So now let's come to what we have done. So we have done a very simple optical surface. This optical surface includes a couple of different metals. It can be aluminum, silver, or gold, and covering those metal surfaces with very thin GST layers. GST layers are in the order of 5, 10, 20 nanometers. And when we do so, this is what we observe. So for very thin GST layer, we see the metal color here, aluminum, and as the GST thickness increases, we see certain colors like yellow, then red, and then blue. This was not something it's not something new actually. People have observed this, and I will come to the literature of this part. The interesting part is, since we use GST, a phase material, when we anneal this, we change the phase from amorphous to crystalline, and the colors disappear. Therefore, we create surfaces, we create the surface color, which can be tuned to another color by simply annealing it. This actually, this study also looks at how silver and also gold works as well, and it turns out that these materials, these mirror layers, they do not work as well as the aluminum. So the literature of this is this. The phenomenon used here is strong interference effects, which was actually not introduced, but it was actually investigated thoroughly by Professor Kapastos group from Harvard. So this is the introduction. So they said that when you have a three-layer structure, like high index material, a lower intermediate material, and low index material on top, in this case, the reflection from the surface will be the major reflection, the primary reflection, plus all of the secondary reflections coming from this surface. Now, it's not something new. Actually, this technology has been used for a while, and when you add these reflections all together, you can achieve a zero reflectance. In other words, it's an anti-reflection coating. So, for example, if this is glass, the glasses that which are used in glasses, and if this is the magnesium difluoride or calcium difluoride, you can achieve this anti-reflection functionality. They say that a similar anti-reflection functionality can be achieved when we have a reflecting substrate, which is metal in this case. On the other, if you use a thin, very thin, lossy dielectric or a semiconductor material, now you can achieve same zero reflectance, but in this case, the primary reflectance and the secondary reflection coefficients, they are not real, like in this case, but they have imaginary part for these layers. These reflection coefficients are also imaginary, but at the end of the day, you can arrange the materials so that your reflection is zero. So what is the effect? The effect is this. Again, this is from their publication. If you get a reflection, a surface, a mirror surface like gold, and if you coat it with germanium, which happens to be a semiconductor material, and which is also a lossy material in the visible, you will start getting different colors. For example, in this case, there is no germanium, and what we see is the gold's color. As you increase the germanium color thickness, you get from gold color to red, something pinkish or purplish color, then you go to all the way to blue. The reason being is the reflective spectrum of each of these surface, they have a pronounced absorbance at a wavelength which redshifts with germanium thickness. So for example, when there is no germanium, this is the intrinsic reflectance of the gold surface. When you have the thickest germanium, which is 25 nanometers in this case, you arrive this blue curve here. And this blue curve, as you can see, it has a pronounced absorbance around red wavelength. Therefore, what's left is the blue. Hence, it looks bluish. So again, this is done by Kapastos group. What they have done, basically, having GST, a very thin layer of package film on top of aluminum, it's not very different. It's just the application of this phenomenon using different materials. So in our case, we use aluminum because it provides better contrast between different phases. When we have GST, we see aluminum color, obviously. When we start increasing GST thickness, like for 10 nanometers, we start seeing the surface getting yellowish color. As we increase the GST color, we see red, we see blue, and eventually for very thick GST layers, we are moving to this dim metallic gray colors. So what's important here is though, this is not very interesting. The interesting part is if you go from amorphous to crystalline, all the colors disappear, right? This is actually what I'm talking about. So this is actually verified by the reflective spectrum, which agrees with the simulations. I will also, at the end of this part, I will talk about how we can make use of this phenomenon for electrothermally tunable colors. One important aspect of this So one important aspect of the surfaces are they are polarization independent, which is good. So if you send P polarization or S polarization light to the surface, they look the same. The color looks the same. And also color looks the same for different leading angles as well. This is important because if you choose to work with rough substrates like aluminum foil in this case, or bendable structures, the colors will look the same. This is important. Another thing we could do for this one is introducing a lossless dielectric between the mirror and the GST. For example, in this case, we prefer tungsten dioxide because it was already available to us, or we can actually use silicon dioxide or any other lossless dielectric basically. And this structure actually is called Fabry-Perot resonator, and this is the resonator structure. In this case, when we don't have a GST thickness, GST layer, the surface doesn't really have any pronounced absorption. But once we introduce a bit of GST, we start getting some absorbance in this visible spectrum. This primary absorbance is with strong interference absorbances that I mentioned. These other narrow absorbances, these are Fabry-Perot absorption with Fabry-Perot resonances. Again, if we have amorphous GST or crystalline GST, we have a difference between these optical properties. Therefore, we have some functionality. So we have tested the reflectance spectrum of the surfaces while we are changing the dielectric, so tungsten dioxide, and also we will get these materials, surfaces at different angles. And one sample I would like to talk about is this one. At 60 degrees, for example, amorphous GST, 10 nanometers of amorphous GST on this surface, it looks like its reflection spectrum looks like this, and for crystalline GST, it looks like this. Therefore, there is a huge difference between the reflection spectrum. Therefore, we are expected to have a very different colors in different phases. That's actually what we see. So this is the sample for that spectra curve. When we look at this sample from top down, it looks purplish. And when we look from, again, the same sample at a high angle, we actually lose it. We lose the color. Sorry, this is the high viewing angle. So the color completely changes. So this may or may not be desired. So if you want to see the same color at all different angles, obviously it's not desired. But for some other applications, you may want to use this fact or results. And what happens when you crystallize the GST layer is the color doesn't really turn completely to something else, but it is tone actually changes a little bit. So again, it's another drawback of having this dielectric between the phase change layer and the mirror. So what can you do with this? The thing you can do is we can actually design pixels, right, using this physics. So for example, if I design a mesostructure for the metal, if I deposit GST on top of it, now I can use this metal structure as a heater as well. If I pass current through this device, now the GST layer on top, it can be annealed or it can be melted and branched for phase change, either for crystalline amorphous or amorphous to crystalline. We have actually simulated this, and we have seen that in principle we can do this. But the amount of current we have to pass in order to either anneal or to melt it is pretty large. And the preliminary studies show that we can achieve it in reality, we can make it a reality as well. We fabricated this aluminum wire. This dimension is in those of 2 micrometer. When we cover it with GST, amorphous GST, it looks greenish. But that's because we are looking at this device under halogen light. Halogen light, therefore, under direct sunlight, it will look a different color. When we pass current through this device, we heat up this region a lot due to Joule heating. And due to that heating, this part, in this part, GST phase change from amorphous to crystalline, hence the color change. This is the preliminary result, and here I think we would like to go in this direction. We would like to actually design pixels where we can change color between 2 colors by using electrothermal process. But as I mentioned, the amount of current we had to pass was a lot. Therefore, in order to reduce it, we can actually go and make our structure like a serpentine structure to increase resistance to reduce the electrical current and electrical power. Again, simulations suggest that we can do it, but in reality, you will see what happens. So, I would like to also mention what happens in the infrared region. So, as I mentioned, the pronounced absorbance, right? This absorbance is here. It actually redshifts with increasing GST. So, if I keep increasing GST thickness, I start observing this behavior, or this optical behavior. It actually extends into infrared wavelengths. On top of it, if we change the phase from amongst the crystal, then we have a very different reflection spectrum or absorption spectrum. And this can be used for infrared applications like changing thermal emission of surfaces. For example, here we are looking at a surface which has aluminum mirror, and on top of it we have 350 nanometers of GST. When it is amorphous phase, the absorbance in the infrared is not so large. So this small dip here, it shows the absorbance. When we change the phase, for the same thickness, the absorbance increases, like this. Therefore, absorbance, since it's equal to emissivity, or it directly affects the emission of the infrared light, GST looks brighter, whereas amorphous GST, crystalline GST looks brighter, whereas amorphous GST looks dimmer. Therefore, we can tell what the material is in infrared. Or in other words, we can actually change the material's infrared emission by changing the phase from amorphous to crystal or crystal to amorphous. Alright. Another thing we have done is, when we change the thickness, if you keep the phase constant, which is crystal in this case, and change the thickness from 200 to 350 nanometers in this case, you can also modify the emission. So the larger the GST thickness, the higher the emission, because we are getting into the peak emission wavelength around room temperature. So finally, a couple of slides I want to talk about the use of these materials or the surfaces for infrared absorption spectroscopy. Brief introduction of this spectroscopy technique is, as the name suggests, this is done in the infrared. If you have a material sample as a thin film, if you send IR light, on the other side you can measure the transmitted light, and in this transmitted light you might be observing the small peaks. And these peaks are actually fingerprints of the material. For example, PMMA will show these dips, these absorption dips, all the time. Therefore, if you can observe the absorption of infrared light at this wavelength, you can tell that it's a PMMA material. So basically, the spectroscopy can be used to identify materials, or if you know the material, it can be used to identify the thickness. So you can actually, here the absorption can be enhanced either by increasing the thickness of the material or increasing the electric fields on the material, following the Beer's law. So the materials that you can sense using infrared absorption spectroscopy is enormous. You can sense the gas, protein, liquids or solids, films. You can sense almost anything. Of course, there are some requirements. If, for example, a material is showing strong absorbance in the infrared, you should be able to use a thin slice of it. One important application of the spectroscopy is sensing proteins. And protein sensing is especially useful for medical diagnosis. And when it comes to protein sensing, you typically have, most of the time, you typically have bilayer protein. At most, you are given bilayer protein, and the protein dimensions are small in terms of nanometers or like tens of nanometers. Therefore, the thickness of the material you are dealing with is like 20 nanometers. Therefore, in order to get some strong infrared absorption from this system, you cannot really change the thickness, but you can enhance the electric field that these proteins observe. And this is actually what the plasmonics fields have been doing. It does a lot of things, but one of the major applications of the plasmonic structures was using this structures to enhance infrared absorption spectroscopy for materials like protein. So these slides are from a publication from Hatice Altuğ, Professor Hatice Altuğ from EPFL. So they are doing this kind of stuff a lot, and they are pretty good at it as well. So this is actually the surface here. It's a very simple antenna surface, micro antennas. And the reason why we do this is when you look at the electric field profile, you can see the electric fields actually enhanced at the edge of these antennas. And if you fabricate in a periodic manner, you can actually enhance the electric field even stronger. Again, electric field enhancement is required in order to increase the absorbance of infrared light by the material so that you can see the seed better. So if you cover these antennas with, let's say, a protein layer, in this case they use silk, and you look at the reflectance, you see certain dips. This dip and this dip, they correspond to emit1 and emit2 bands, absorption bands of the protein. Therefore, you tell that there's a protein here, or you say that there's a certain amount of protein on the surface. And they can actually employ this very well. So they fabricate a fluid channel, they pass certain proteins. Some of them attach certain affinity to the surface, so some of them attach, some of them don't. And they can actually tell which ones are attaching to the surface and which ones are not attaching to the surface by looking at the absorbance from the FTIR, the infrared absorption spectroscopy tool. So there are some limitations though. First of all, you have to fabricate this structure. Most of them use this electron beam lithography, therefore it's limited. The electric field zone enhanced at the edges. One thing. Another thing is the bandwidth is narrow. So for example, for protein, since they are close by, you are lucky that you can actually see them at the same time with one surface. But if they were placed far from each other, you will be able to see. You will be able to see them easily. Another thing is the dimensions determine the optical properties. And in other words, optical properties strongly depend on the dimensions. Therefore, while designing and fabricating, we have to be careful. So our solution for this kind of limitations were just use mirror layer and an infrared transparent layer so that you can fabricate an uniform enhancement structure. So in this case, when you have this very simple structure, bilayer structure, at the surface, the electric field is enhanced by a factor of 4. Electric field intensity is enhanced by a factor of 4. Now, 4 may sound small, it's modest, but it actually works as we get plasmonic structures. Here is the electric field enhancement on the cross section of the structure. When we, for example, put some material here, it can be PMA or protein layers, the absorbance of infrared light by those materials will be enhanced by a factor of 4. For the material, if we choose GST, now we have the advantage of changing the phase of GST and changing the wavelength region where this field is enhanced. For example, when we have simply calcium dichloride window, which is typically used for this kind of applications, on this one, the electric field within the calcium dichloride or on the substrate, it is uniform and it's around 0.7. Therefore, if you put some material on top of it and if you measure the transmission spectrum, you can get something if your material is thick enough. Now, the alternative is using our substrate here, and our substrate enhances the electric field in this wavelength region. Therefore, if your absorption bands are within this region, now you can see your material very well. And since we are using a phase-changing material, we can now change the phase from amorphous to crystalline. And if you do so, the enhancement enhancement band, it redshifts. Therefore, now you can see even more information. For example, if there are some absorption bands here, you can see it when the phase is in amorphous. If there are some absorption bands in this region, you can see those when the phase is crystalline GST. So here's an example. We are using PMA as our probe material. When it is on simply calcium dichloride substrate, you are supposed to see these absorbance bands here, here, and here. If when it is on our field enhancement surface, these bands now can be seen with a very high intensity, which is good, but the other bands are much smaller. If you actually change your phase from analog to GST, these bands disappear, but now the higher frequency absorptions are clearer. In other words, these materials, these surfaces, when GST are used for, is used as a dielectric material, can offer you enhanced infrared absorption spectroscopy at lower wavelengths and also the higher wavelengths as well. So we have tried this with PMMA as we also work with the simulations. So this is what we have seen. So for thin GST layer in amorphous phase, we see these fingerprints, absorption bands. When we change the phase to GST, we see that this higher depth absorption, and there are some other absorption bands here at the higher wavelengths. Now we can see them a little better. For higher GST thickness, now we start seeing higher wavelength absorption even better. So, to summarize, the simple structures that are metal mirrors coated with GSTs can be used for color to generate colors and change of colors by simply changing the phase of the material from amorphous to crystalline, as summarized by this figure here. Or alternatively, if you keep increasing the thickness of the GST, you go into the infrared region, and in the infrared region, there are a couple of applications. One application is the emission, tunability of the emission, or we can use substrates as field enhancing substrates for infrared absorption spectroscopy, and that by changing the phase, we can see different regions of the absorption bands. This concludes the talk. As I mentioned, I want to talk spend Professor Gökhan, Sancar, and Dr. Erol. So Erol most did the coating surface with protein and ODT kind of chemicals, and also this has been funded by two projects. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Any questions? Everything is ours.
Ben teşekkür ederim. Farklı olduğu sürece bütün dalga boyunca alabilirsin.